Welcome back to the Energy Sovereignty Project and our closeout for the 4th week in June. How exciting is that? Now we're at the halfway point of the year, and what that means is it's going to allow us to take a look at where we are and be able to extrapolate what the remainder of the year is going to be like. And I've decided to go ahead and do that as a series of quick topics rather than trying to address that in this video and making the video overly long. We've had some people stress that some of the videos would have been perfect if they had been 10 or 15 minute videos as opposed to me yapping on for half an hour or 20 minutes. So we'll go ahead and keep this brief. We are going to do some quick topics. I have 3 in mind. One of them will be on the cleaning of the photovoltaic panels themselves, some methods for that, and some safety gear that you might find useful. We're going to do another one, obviously, on the losses of the system. This is a perfect time of year to do that because we are at peak production, so now we're able to actually tease out where those losses might be. It's very difficult to do that if your total contribution for the day is 4, 5, 10 kilowatt hours. But when you're in a situation where you have consistent days where you're producing 60 or more kilowatt hours, then it makes it a little bit of an easier task to do. And then finally also a efficiency on what we call roof to wheels, where we'll be examining the vehicle. And as part of that, today, this is the 30th, I normally close out on the 29th, but I was out of town yesterday. So today on the 30th, as you'll see when we do this closeout for the week, there's going to be an increased amount of draw off of the batteries because we're doing a depletion test of the batteries into the vehicle, and at the same time I'm turning the house into an icebox for science. So I'll explain a little bit about that as we close out the notes for the 30th. And with that, let's go ahead and start the recap for the week. Welcome back to the Energy Sovereignty Project. I'll tell you a little bit about the beef jerky when we close out. But let's go over this week in review. I'm going to do a short video here. Once I've gotten this posted, I'll get to work on the quick topic for the solstice update. So, starting off where we left off last week on the 22nd, we've got a situation here where again we're preparing for a long weekend of driving in the Bay Area and trying to get there and back. That brought the day's driving to 122 miles after going there, and also doing a little bit of driving while there. 15 kilowatt hours to the vehicle to prepare for the day. That brought the charge up to 100% before heading off. Good production for the day, 63.8 kilowatt hours. Home usage was moderate. The AC dealt with some higher than seasonably normal temperatures, but not too bad. Again, pretty typical with the heavy days driving. The in and out of the power wall was fairly high. And the notes, again showing the 15 kilowatt hours to the vehicle. The start represents the beginning of the trip to the Bay Area. 15 kilowatts to the car in the morning, fully charged it, and then as well as the vehicle stats at the end of the day. And then this brings us to the 23rd. We had some visitors from out of state, and so we spent the day driving around the beaches of the Marin Headlands. It's a really nice drive up there, but the result was that I needed to tap into some supercharging to get home. We had good production for the day, 61.2 kilowatt hours. And then the home use represents that 28 kilowatt hours put to the car there. You can see after we got home. Let's look over that for a second. Good production, 61.2 kilowatt hours. And then the notes. As you can see here, we have that 20 kilowatt hours from the supercharging, and then the 28 kilowatt hours charged once we got home to return the vehicle to a usable percentage. And then the 24th. Fairly overcast day. That dropped the overall production a little bit. And this was listed as a maintenance day, as I needed to take the car in for a new set of tires and have the brakes inspected as we prepared for our road trip to Minnesota later in July. And after returning home, I didn't have much charge left in the car. So I had instructed the folks over at the Tesla Service Center not to put any charge in my car while they were maintaining it. That way we could keep track of how it was using sunlight. And then notes. As stated here in the notes, I probably put a bit more into the car than I should have, but I needed the car available for errands, and I didn't see really any curveballs in the forecast. Let's look at that for a moment. And then speaking of the forecast, let me pull this up here real quick. So this is the forecast for the 24th through the 28th, and with nothing in the 100 degree or above category, it was a simple matter then to take a look at the evening low temperatures and then realize that it would be a very easy matter to moderate the temperature. And so as you can see in the top bar, by 9 p.m. the exterior temperature was below the set point of the thermostat for the AC, and because of this, opening the windows upstairs, well, actually opening a couple windows upstairs and opening one window downstairs, and then turning on the circulating fan that I was telling you about, that quickly brought the temperature under control. Once the home was at 74 degrees, I closed everything up and we were basically good to go. And here is the 25th. Not much driving. Good production day at just over 60 kilowatt hours. 16 kilowatt hours to the car brought the total solar day percentage to 32%. And then if you remember from that forecast we just showed, today was in the low 90s, and that's reflected in the slightly increased home usage of 40.5 kilowatt hours, obviously for the AC. And then the notes. Just as we said, quite a bit of AC, and then the vehicle data. I'll give you a minute with that. Okay, and so then here we have the 26th. Another good production day, starting with 18%. Even with a heavy charge to the car, we managed to end the day at 30%. The limited driving helped that out, only 12 miles or so, just some errands. And then here we have the notes. Again, just like we said, mild weather reflected in the AC use, 34 kilowatt hours to the car. That brought the usable miles back up to 200. Kind of where I like to keep it, you know, in that between 70 to 90% charge ratio. Did a little bit of grocery shopping, that rounded out the day's vehicle use. And then the 27th, slightly overcast, but it didn't affect the total production too badly. Another 15 kilowatt hours to the car, again to replace what was used and then bump it up just a little bit. And the limited driving for the day, temperatures crept up a little bit, but that didn't do too bad. We got 31.4 kilowatt hours of total use for the home, and then of course that 15 kilowatt hours to the vehicle. And then in the notes, it's brought the car back up to its 90% charge. That's kind of, like I said, where I like to keep it. Just a little bit of running around, mostly back and forth to the studio that day. And then the 28th. Another overcast day with about 10 kilowatt hours reduction in production. Mild weather though, so that kind of offset that by not having a lot of draw with air conditioning, and then only 5 kilowatt hours just to kind of replenish that 13.8 miles that I had done, and that ended the day at a 70% total solar day system charge. And then here we've got the notes, basically just like I said, short bump to replenish what was used for the day. And then the vehicle data. Give you a second with that. And then the 29th. Production limited again a bit by the overcast weather. And getting ready for another trip to the Bay Area and some necessary driving while we were there. And that meant that I needed to give a quick bump charge of 10 kilowatts to be able to make it home. Now the odd thing here is that I didn't want to have to stop on my way home. And so in order to accomplish that, so I wouldn't have to recharge on the 30th, I wound up doing the supercharging on this day because the supercharger was actually located really close to where I was staying the night. And because I wasn't planning on doing any driving other than just straight home the following day, then I was able to actually supercharge to a percentage that I knew would barely get me back home with the evening losses. And so that's what I did. And so here we've got the notes. Again, as stated, 12 kilowatt hours charged to bring it to 100% before I fired it off. And then that was followed by a supercharged bump in the evening. And then the 30th, another good production day. And because I was actually delayed a little bit in getting out in the morning, I had a nice yummy breakfast. Then when I did finally get home, the system had actually hit 100% and was actually starting to send some power to the grid. Not much, but a little enough to mention it. That's kind of nice. And again, once home, I decided to take advantage of the 100% charge to do a capacity validation by taking exactly 40 kilowatt hours to the car. And that was the start of what will be a later video that I'll be posting as we start to talk about the efficiency of the vehicle as we go from the power created by the PV cells, the solar cells on the roof, to what actually winds up passing under the wheels in miles. And so I'll save that for a later video. And then here we have the notes. And the one bit of fun that I added here is the total miles driven on Sunlight for the month. I'm actually going to go ahead and revise the log and include that in all of the last days of the previous months. I think that'll be interesting just for anybody who reads through it at a later date. I drove by the local gas station on my way to the studio, and as I was coming back here to record this, and I noticed that the price of gas was $3.95 for mid-grade and $4.05 for premium. So that brings my total savings for the month to somewhere around $240. And I actually felt guilty, so I stopped by and got some beef jerky. Okay, maybe I just wanted beef jerky. Not really feeling too guilty about not visiting a gas station. I don't know about those of you that are driving electric. So that's about it. Normally I end this on the 29th, but because I was already a day late in getting this all recorded, I decided to wait one more day so that I could show some of the closing numbers. Just a quick shot here. This is the monthly grid use for the month of June. That 8.2 kilowatt hours is mostly reflected in our little oops that we did on that one day where the home got a bit overheated from those high temperatures. But total export was 88 kilowatt hours for the month. And a bit less, if I'm honest, than I would have thought we were going to do as far as exporting to the grid. Again, I don't do a lot of driving, but I had thought that number was going to be quite a bit higher. But again, we had some unseasonably warm weather for June, and then that offset the difference between what we would normally see as our production versus our home use. With the AC coming on, especially with those few days where we wound up seeing very heavy AC use, that really kind of tamped things down. So that's about it for this week's closeout. I'm gathering some data for the solstice special that we're doing, and I'm compiling obviously all the log entries as we usually do for our end of the month closeout, where we do, in this case, 30 days and 31 minutes. And so you can expect to see those very shortly. But as always, thanks for following along, and good luck with your own systems. We have a couple of new subscriber systems in the queue where the owners have been generous enough to invite us to come and film their systems being installed, and so we'll be looking forward to videos on that in the coming month. Tomas is having his system installed sometime around the 8th, so we'll be filming that. And then I just got word that one of our other subscribers had signed a contract, and so he's probably looking at about, as Tomas was saying, in that 4 to 6 week range before he gets his system installed, and we've been invited to come and film that. So until next time, thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you very soon.